The storage unit key was small, just a silver thing on a worn keychain, but I kept it hidden in an empty Tylenol bottle at the back of my medicine cabinet. When my son Michael asked why I looked so distracted that Wednesday evening, why I hadn't started dinner yet, why my hands were shaking, I thought about that key. And for the first time in 4 years, I lied to him without feeling guilty. I told him I was just tired from gardening. But that storage unit, the one he didn't know existed, held everything I'd need to leave. Not yet, but soon. It started the way these things always do. Gradually. So gradually you mistake control for care until you can't breathe anymore. My husband Frank died suddenly 4 years ago. Heart attack at 67, gone before the ambulance arrived. We'd been married 42 years. Michael was 31 then, struggling with his second divorce and mountain of debt. He moved back home to help me, he said. Just temporarily. At first, I was grateful. The house felt enormous without Frank. The silence was crushing. Michael handled the funeral arrangements, the insurance paperwork, all those awful details you can't think straight about when grief is drowning you. He was so helpful, so concerned. Then helpful became controlling, but so slowly I didn't notice the shift. Dorothy, you don't need to keep working. You're 58. Retire. I'll handle everything. And I did retire from nursing, thinking I'd finally have time to travel, to volunteer, to live. But Michael had other ideas about what retirement meant. It meant being available, being home, being watched. He didn't move out after 6 months like he promised. Instead, he took over Frank's office, then the spare bedroom for his gym. He took over the finances too. Mom, you're too emotional right now to make good decisions. Let me manage Dad's life insurance payout. You'll thank me later. I signed the papers because he was my son. Because I was drowning in grief and didn't have the energy to argue. Because mothers are supposed to trust their children. The $340,000 from Frank's life insurance went into accounts with Michael's name on them. For safekeeping, he said. He gave me a debit card with a $200 weekly limit. For groceries and personal items, he explained. Everything else, you just ask me. I'll take care of it. I stopped going to lunch with my nursing friends from the hospital. Too expensive, Michael said. You have food here. I stopped my book club membership. $30 a month is wasteful when the library is free. I stopped driving to visit my sister Claire in Phoenix. Gas is too expensive, and you're getting older, Mom. What if something happens on the road? He changed the Wi-Fi password weekly and wouldn't give it to me. You spend too much time online, Mom. It's not healthy. He started opening my mail. I'm just helping you stay organized. He monitored my phone calls. Who was that? What did they want? What did you tell them? The house was paid off, in my name, but Michael paid the utilities, the property tax, the insurance, all from our account that I couldn't access. You're living here rent-free, he reminded me when I questioned anything. A lot of seniors would kill for this arrangement. I became a guest in my own home, cooking his meals, cleaning his spaces, asking permission to buy shampoo or get my hair cut. At 62 years old, I had less freedom than I'd had at 16, but I made excuses. He's been through so much with the divorces. He's just worried about me. He means well. This is what family does. The breaking point came on a Monday morning in September. I woke up with crushing chest pain, couldn't catch my breath. I'd been a cardiac nurse for 35 years. I knew what this was. Michael was in his room, door closed, probably sleeping off another late night. I managed to get to his door, knocked weakly. Michael, I need help. I think I'm having a heart attack. He opened the door, annoyed. Mom, you're fine. You always think something's wrong. You're just anxious. I can't breathe. Please. Call 911. Do you know how much an ambulance costs? He checked his phone. Just take some aspirin. You'll be fine. I stumbled back to my room, found my purse, my phone buried under magazines Michael had piled there. My hands shook so hard I could barely dial. The 911 operator talked me through it while I chewed aspirin, told me the ambulance was coming, that I should unlock the front door if I could. Michael was furious when the paramedics arrived. She's fine. She's just dramatic. This is going to cost a fortune. Sir, your mother is having a cardiac event. We need to transport her now. The paramedic, a young woman with kind eyes, Didn't wait for his permission. At the hospital, they confirmed it. Small heart attack, caught early enough that the damage was minimal. I'd need medication, lifestyle changes, monitoring. The ER doctor, Dr. Patel, looked at me seriously. Mrs. Reynolds, you're lucky. If you'd waited another hour, we'd be having a very different conversation. I stayed overnight for observation. Michael didn't come. He texted once, "Hope you're okay. This is going to destroy our budget." The next morning, a woman in her 40s came to my room. Soft voice, observant eyes. "Mrs. Reynolds, I'm Grace Martinez. I'm a social worker here at the hospital. Dr. Patel asked me to check in with you." "I'm fine," I said automatically. "Just need to be more careful." She sat down, didn't rush. "How are you getting home?" "My son will pick me up." "The son, who didn't want to call 911? Her voice was gentle, not accusatory. And that's when I started crying. Not soft tears, but deep, wrenching sobs that came from somewhere I'd kept locked away for 4 years. Grace handed me tissues and waited. It all came out. The life insurance money I couldn't access, the $200 weekly limit, the isolation from friends and family, living like a prisoner in my own home, nearly dying because my son didn't want to pay for an ambulance. "Mrs. Reynolds," Grace said firmly, "what you're describing is elder financial abuse. And what happened yesterday, that's neglect. Both are serious. Both are illegal." "He's my son." The words felt weak even as I said them. "That doesn't give him the right to control your life or put you in danger. Have you thought about what happens next time you have a medical emergency? Next time he decides something isn't worth the money?" I hadn't. Or I had, and that's why the key was hidden in the Tylenol bottle. Grace pulled out a card. "I want you to call me. Today, tomorrow, whenever you're ready, we have resources. Legal aid, emergency housing for seniors, advocates who specialize in elder abuse. You don't have to live like this." Michael picked me up 3 hours later, barely spoke to me. When we got home, he sat me down at the kitchen table. "Mom, we need to talk about money. This hospital visit, the ambulance, the tests, it's going to cost thousands, even with Medicare. We can't afford you being dramatic every time you feel a little off." I almost died. "You're fine now, aren't you?" He stood up. "I'm going out. There's soup in the pantry for dinner." After he left, I took Grace's card from my purse where I'd hidden it under old receipts. I stared at it for 20 minutes. Then I called. Over the next 5 months, Grace and I made a plan. A real plan. First, I needed documentation. Bank statements showing the life insurance deposit and my lack of access. The trust documents Frank and I had set up that Michael had convinced me to modify. Medical records from the heart attack, including the notes about delayed care. I started taking photos with my phone when Michael wasn't looking. Each document hidden in a folder labeled recipes that he'd never check. Second, I needed a lawyer. Grace connected me with attorney Lisa Park, who worked with the county's elder justice program. Lisa was 50-something, sharp as a scalpel, and furious when she saw my documentation. "Your son has been systematically stealing from you," she said. "The life insurance money was yours. The accounts should have been in your name. We can prove financial exploitation and potentially neglect charges for the heart attack incident." "Can I really do this?" I asked. "He's my son." "Yes, you can," Lisa said. "And yes, he is. But that doesn't give him the right to treat you this way." Third, I needed somewhere to go. Grace knew a woman named Eleanor who ran a senior living cooperative on Magnolia Street. "Not a nursing home," Eleanor explained when I met her, "but a house where 6 women, 55 and older, shared space and expenses. We all have our own rooms, our own lives, but we're not alone." The room was $425 a month, including utilities. I had saved $847 from my debit card over 8 months, buying the cheapest groceries I could, skipping things I needed. It would cover 2 months. After that, I'd need access to my own money. That's what the storage unit was for. I started moving things there in January, 3 months after the heart attack. Small things Michael wouldn't notice. Photo albums from before he was born, my mother's jewelry that Frank had given me, my nursing diploma and licenses, a box of letters from Claire, my favorite books, 1 sweater, 2 pairs of jeans, comfortable shoes, The storage unit cost $67 a month. I paid cash from grocery money, saved the spare change. The owner, an elderly Vietnamese man named Mr. Nguyen, asked no questions when I requested the unit be in just my name, paid 3 months in advance. Lisa filed papers for a restraining order and emergency access to the accounts. She also filed a civil suit for recovery of the life insurance funds and elder abuse damages. We timed it carefully. The papers would be served to Michael at the house while I was gone. We picked a Thursday. Michael had a standing golf game every Thursday at 1, usually got home around 6. That gave me 5 hours. The night before, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed thinking about Michael as a little boy. How he'd climbed into bed with Frank and me during thunderstorms. How proud we'd been at his college graduation. How he'd cried at his father's funeral. Where had that boy gone? Or had I just never seen who he really was? Thursday morning, I made Michael breakfast like always. Scrambled eggs, wheat toast, black coffee. He complained that the eggs were too dry. I apologized. He left at 12:30 without saying goodbye. He never did anymore. I waited until 12:45. Then I called Eleanor. I'm ready. She arrived with her friend Violet in a small pickup truck. They helped me load the few things I was taking beyond what was in storage. My clothes, my medications, Frank's watch that I'd hidden in my jewelry box, the quilt my grandmother had made. I walked through the house one last time. This house where I'd lived for 38 years. Where I'd raised Michael, celebrated Christmases, grown old with Frank, the kitchen where I'd made thousands of meals, the living room where Michael now forbade me to watch my favorite shows because they were stupid, the bedroom where I'd forgotten what it felt like to feel safe. I didn't take photos off the walls. I didn't leave a note. Lisa had advised against it. Don't give him ammunition. Don't explain. Just go. I locked the door behind me and left my key on the kitchen counter. I kept the house key only because Lisa said I might need it for legal proceedings. Eleanor's cooperative was a large Victorian house painted sage green with white trim. My room was on the second floor, small but mine. A bed, a dresser, a reading chair by the window that looked out on a garden. The bathroom was shared with 2 other women, but Eleanor had already introduced me. Carmen, 67, a retired teacher. Yuki, 61, a widow like me. Welcome home, Eleanor said, and I cried again. Michael called my cell phone 3-4 times that evening. I'd kept the phone, but Eleanor had helped me change the number and settings. The old number went to voicemail. Lisa listened to the messages later. They ranged from confusion to anger to threats. Mom, where are you? This is ridiculous. Mom, you're making a huge mistake. When you come back, we're going to have serious consequences. Mom, I'm calling the police. You can't just abandon your house. He did call the police. They explained that I was not a missing person. I had left voluntarily, and at 62 with no cognitive impairment, I had every right to do so. The process server found him at the house at 7:30 that evening. According to Lisa, he refused the papers at first, claiming there must be a mistake, that his mother would never do this, that someone had manipulated me. The server explained that wasn't how it worked and left the papers on the porch. Michael called Claire in Phoenix. Claire, who I hadn't spoken to in 2 years because Michael made it so difficult. Claire called Grace's office, who confirmed I was safe. Claire cried on the phone with me that night. I've been trying to reach you for so long, she said. Every time I called, Michael said you were busy or asleep or couldn't come to the phone. I sent letters. Did you get them? No. I realized then that Michael had been intercepting everything. Cards on my birthday, Christmas packages, all of it gone. Come visit when you're ready, Claire said, or I'll come there. We've got 2 years to catch up on. The legal process took 9 months. Michael fought everything. The restraining order, the account access, the lawsuit. He claimed I had abandoned the house and him, that I was mentally incompetent, that people had turned me against him. He told anyone who would listen that I was confused, being manipulated, that he was the victim here. But Lisa had the documentation. The bank records showing he'd moved my money without authorization. The modified trust documents his divorce attorney had helped him create. The medical records from my heart attack and the paramedic report noting his resistance to calling 911. Testimony from Grace, from Dr. Patel, from my former nursing colleagues who confirmed they'd tried to maintain contact but I'd gradually disappeared. Judge Richardson was a woman in her 60s who'd built her career on elder law. She didn't buy Michael's story. The restraining order was made permanent. Michael had to stay 500 feet away from me and could only contact me through attorneys. The court ordered him to return all the life insurance funds plus interest, minus documented household expenses for the time he'd lived there. That came to $287,000 out of the original $340,000. The house was mine. Michael had 30 days to move out. If he wanted to sue for the value of improvements he'd made, he could try, but given the abuse findings, Judge Richardson made it clear that wouldn't go well. The civil suit settled. Michael paid an additional $75,000 in damages rather than go to trial where the abuse would become public record. His lawyer advised him that a jury of people my age wouldn't be sympathetic. I sold the house. Too many memories, both good and bad. I couldn't separate them anymore. It sold for $465,000. After paying off the small remaining mortgage and closing costs, I cleared $441,000. I stayed at Eleanor's cooperative, not because I couldn't afford my own place, but because after 4 years of isolation, I didn't want to be alone. I wanted community. I wanted the sound of Yuki humming while she cooked. I wanted Carmen's terrible jokes at breakfast. I wanted Eleanor's wisdom when I woke up from nightmares about Michael showing up. I invested most of the money conservatively. At 63, with my Social Security and the investment income, I had about $4,800 a month. More than enough. Claire flew up from Phoenix 2 weeks after the settlement. We sat in Eleanor's garden and cried and laughed and filled in 2 years of lost time. She showed me pictures of her grandchildren, told me about her retirement, her book club, her life. I told her about nursing, about Frank, about the 4 years I'd lost. "Why didn't you call me?" she asked gently. "I would have come. I would have helped." "I know," I said. I was ashamed. And after a while, Michael had me so convinced I was the problem that I didn't even think I deserved help. Last Tuesday, I completed training at the hospital as a volunteer patient advocate. I work specifically with the Elder Abuse Response Team, helping social workers like Grace identify and assist victims. I sit in small consultation rooms and tell people, "You don't have to live like this. It's not normal. It's not okay. And yes, you can leave. We can help you." Grace hugs me every time I come in. "I'm so proud of you, Dorothy. I'm proud of me too." As for Michael, I heard through mutual acquaintances that he moved to Colorado, found a job in IT. He tells people his mother cut him off and that we had a falling out over his father's estate. He's painted himself as the victim, which doesn't surprise me. Abusers rarely see themselves clearly. His sister, my daughter-in-law from his first marriage, reached out to me last month. She said Michael had done similar things to her during their divorce, controlled finances, and isolated her from friends. She just didn't have the language for it then. She thanked me for being brave enough to do what she'd been too scared to do. I don't hate Michael. Hate takes energy I don't have anymore. But I don't forgive him either. Forgiveness isn't something you give to someone who hasn't acknowledged what they did wrong. He had chances to change, to get help, to be the son I'd raised. He chose control instead. My job now isn't to fix him. It's to make sure other sons and daughters and husbands and caregivers know that what they're doing has a name, has consequences, and that their victims have rights. I still have that storage unit key, even though the unit is empty now. It sits on my dresser, next to Frank's watch and my grandmother's quilt. Sometimes I look at it and remember the woman who rented that unit with shaking hands and grocery money, who didn't know if she'd have the courage to actually leave. I want to tell her, "You did it. You survived. You got yourself back." But she knows. She knew all along. She was just waiting for the right Thursday to finally believe she deserved to be free. At 63 years old, I finally learned that dignity isn't something your children give you or take away. It's yours by birthright, and it's never too late to take it back, even when the person controlling you shares your blood and your name and your history. Family isn't supposed to feel like a prison, and love isn't supposed to cost you everything, including yourself.